I'd like to start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rucha Kodash. Welcome to the live lesson. The name of this one is The Real Church. Um, Yesterday, I believe it was, I was reading through the book. I've been telling you brothers about the New Testament and Antiquity. And I came across, something that we already know, that brothers that have been studying already know. And I just kind of wanted to just revisit it, dealing with the word church, and congregation, convocation, assembly, things of that nature. Church of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai is not the body of believers as vocab and others will have you believe, although the body of believers that are a part of the elect of the nation of Israel, if they said it in that fashion, then they would be correct. All right. And that congregation, church, so on and so forth, is dealing with the nation of Israel. All right. And Lord's will, this will be an edifying lesson. I just have some random precepts dealing with those different words that I mentioned. And, we're just going to get into it, see where Spirit leads us. I just wanted to read a little bit off of this book. It begins, it's actually on page 96, and that's, let's see, that's chapter 4, the Mediterranean world of the Apostle Paul. And, one thing I like about this book is very concise, it's very direct. It doesn't give you a whole lot of information, but the little bit that it gives you, is enough, for those that understand the scriptures to give a perspective of what was going on during that time in order to really understand why there were certain words or certain phrases used in the New Testament. Now, I came across this, right, and I'm going to read some of this paragraph, not the whole thing. Like I said, this is on page 96. It says, the empire, meaning the Roman Empire, also had numerous free cities, such as Ephesus, Smyrna, Tarsus, Antioch in Syria, and Thessalonica. These cities could govern themselves according to local tradition, could mint their own coins, and were exempt from many of the taxes normally paid to Rome. Here's the point here. Here, the democratic Greek system of government prevailed, with the highest ruling authority being the ecclesia, which the word ecclesia is a Greek word which means church, right? And it says assembly, a word commonly used to describe the church in the New Testament. Of the demos, which the word demos is people, the people or the free citizens of the city. And it gives you precepts and scriptures to go to. So what I did was I just put a list of scriptures together based off of those different words that I mentioned at the beginning. So the first one we're going to deal with, let's go into the word church itself. And the very first time that the word church appears in the scriptures is in the book of, as the word church, written out as church, is in the book of Matthew, the 16th chapter, all right? Which this was, Yahushai pretty much establishing the church after his departure, because he was, this is about the middle of the book of Matthew, and towards the end, this is when Yahushua was brought up on charges and eventually crucified, resurrected. So he was before he made that great sacrifice for us, for the nation of Israel. He pretty much was setting his house in order, beginning with Peter, which was the head of the disciples and the head after Yahushua, to lead and teach the doctrine that we teach into this very day, and we believe that through faith, So Yahushua told him Matter of fact, I start at 17, Matthew 16 and 17. And Yahushua answered and said unto him, Blessed art thou, Simon Barjona, for flesh and blood have not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. Because things in the scriptures, are some things are spiritually discerned. Some are not spiritually discerned, and some are. Some men that are carnal will not be able to get the things of the spirit, and those that are spiritual will be able to get it. And this was after Yahushua asked the disciples, who do the people out there, who do these Israelites that come to see me, I'm just merely paraphrasing, who do they say that I am? And the disciples were saying, some say that you're Elijah, some say that you're, prophet, or another prophet that come. Can't remember every single detail of it. I mean, I could scroll up above it. And they were saying that the people saying this, you're John the Baptist, you're Elijah, you're, this person, you're that person, this prophet, the other prophet. And the reason why they were saying that is because they believed and understood about reincarnation. All right, there's many precepts to go into that to show you that they believed in reincarnation, and this is why they would say something like that, because some of the prophets that they mentioned were already long gone. They had already been on the earth and died. So why would they say he's Jeremiah or he's this prophet or that prophet if those prophets had died already because of reincarnation? All right. So when the apostle Peter answered him and said that you are the Son of the Most High, the Messiah, he told him, Blessed are you, Peter, for flesh and blood have not revealed this unto you. And see, this is the main ingredient that's missing, in these churches, which is the Holy Spirit. All right. So it goes on to say, and I say unto thee, and I say also unto thee, that thou art Peter. Now the word Peter goes back to the word Cephas, which means rock. It says, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. So now when we go into that word church there, the word church goes back to the Greek word ecclesia. So let me see if actually in Matthew 16 and 18, if it does mention the word ecclesia for the word church. Yep, ecclesia. Now when you break down the word ecclesia in the Greek, ek means out. And then the word ecclesia, ecclesia, the rest of it means to call. So the real church is the calling out. All right. So when we're out there on the streets teaching His word and breaking it down and giving the right sense of it, that's the calling out, or that is the gathering of the church, which are Israelites. Okay. So now, before we go into anything else, now that we've established that, I got some other precepts, but I want to go to the book of Nehemiah to show you something. I mean, those of you brothers, that's been studying, you already know this. But for those that may not be familiar with it, we're going to get into it. Because we finna get deep. Just an inside joke. Okay, Nehemiah chapter 8, verse 1. All right, now keep in mind, this was after the Babylonian Empire, going into the Medo-Persian Empire, where these prophets and leaders, priests were gathering together, elders, for the rebuilding of the temple. Okay? Now it says, Nehemiah 8:1, and all the people gathered themselves together as one man into the street that was before the water gate. All right? Because the main place of concourse, the main place of doing the business of the Lord, the transactions in the spirit of the Lord, is on the streets. Matter of fact, let's give one precept before we move on. Let's go back to Matthew 22 and 9. This is where the business of the Lord is supposed to be kept, on the streets. All right. Now, when we do the sit downs and the and the in transits and walking talks and all of that. That's beautiful because that's extra gravy, you know. But the main teachings are on the streets. Matthew 22:9. Go ye therefore into the highways, and as many as you shall find, bid to the marriage. Because this is a marriage. This is a marriage supper of the Lamb. And the prophets out there teaching are calling to Israel, to the other Israelites out there, to come to the marriage. But most won't come. But the main traffic would be out there on the streets. So going back to Nehemiah 8:1, right? It says, and all the people gathered themselves together as one man into the street that was before the water gate. And they spake unto Ezra the scribe to bring the book of the law of Moses, which Yahweh had commanded to Israel. Because this message is to the nation of Israel. The word gospel breaks down to the word euangelion. Euangelion is a compound word. EU means good. Angelion is where you get the word angel or message or messenger. So euangelion or good message is for the nation of Israel, because when you go back into the Old Testament, the Lord made a covenant with the nation of Israel, with our forefathers, that if we followed the law, statutes, and commandments, you know, we would be good. If not, we would have to sacrifice the blood of animals. At one point, the Lord cut that off. Didn't want to smell it, didn't want to hear it, didn't want to partake in it anymore. So we were pretty much out there orphaned. So he sent the Son Yahweh Shai on the earth to become a new sacrifice for us, to redeem us and reconcile us back to the Heavenly Father Yahweh. So by the means of his sacrifice, that opened up the door for us to receive mercy. So now it's good news for us, because now we can get back to the Father. And that's what these lessons are for, to let the nation of Israel know that, look, the Lord is accepting you back now. But in this time, only the elect are going to get it. And when I mean the nation of Israel, I'm talking about the so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, and the rest of the Israelites that are scattered throughout the planet, no matter what they look like, as long as their line, their seed line on their father's side goes back to so-called Negroes, Latinos, or Native American Indians. All right? So it goes on to say, and Ezra the priest brought the law before the congregation, both of men and women. Now, matter of fact, before I read on there, I'm offline, so I can't really access the internet like that. But I looked up the word church on an offline dictionary, and it gives you, different, breakdowns or definitions. And one of them is one of the groups of Christians who have their own beliefs and forms of worship. A place for public, especially Christian worship, which a building is just a building. Remember, the scripture said that the Lord dwelleth not in temples made with hands. Because the congregation of Israel, that happens to be the church. And as you understand the word church, and as you understand the different words, and you understand the different history of the scriptures, you'll begin to see that. All right. Number 3, a service conducted in a house of worship. Number 4 is the main point: the body of people who attend or belong to a particular local church. All right. So the body of people are who? Israelites that make up that church. Because Yahweh Shai said in Matthew 18 that where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I in the midst. All right. Now going back to the book of Nehemiah 8:1, one word that popped out was, and Ezra the priest brought the law before the congregation. Now when we look up the word congregation, it's another compound word. Con meaning with, and Greg or gregation, the name Greg means flock. All right, so congregation means with the flock. All right, with the flock. Just bear with me right quick. I'm trying to put this together. So congregation simply means with the flock. And who is the flock? The flock is the nation of Israel. Let's see what it says. Congregation, a group of people who adhere to a common faith and habitually attend a given church. An assemblage of people or animals or things collected together. The act of congregating. Okay? So the congregation is with the flock. Who is the flock? Let's go from there to the book of Matthew, chapter 10. Sorry to disappoint you, scoffers. This is going to be a boring lesson. You know, it's only for the studious minded. Matthew 10 and 5. These 12 Yahushua sent forth and commanded them, saying, because Yahushua is the main messenger that was sent by the Most High, Yahweh, to give this message. Should he not know what the message is when he was in direct contact with the Most High, Yahweh? And this is what he said. Go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not. Why? Because they were not supposed to receive this message, because this message of the gospel or the good news only pertains to the nation of Israel. These are the reconciled of the Lord, Yahweh, through the sacrifice of Yahushua. You can't get around that. The word reconciliation does not mean giving grace to everyone to come and be a partaker with the Most High. The word reconciliation means to be brought back into the good graces or into the friendship of somebody that you may have been, foreign to, or had aught with. Y'all had like such a heavy argument or different point of view that you separated from each other and became estranged. But then something happens to where you come back together and you make amends, become friends again, and that becomes a reconciliation. That's what the gospel of ministry, the ministry or ministration of reconciliation is about. Like you have something in law when a man and a woman just can't work it out. They have a divorce because of irreconcilable differences. You couldn't find a common ground to where you could be made whole again, or you could be made friends again, or you could be brought back into that relationship again. But the Lord, the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, made a reconciliation for us through His Son, Yahushua. And if you don't understand that, you're going to get lost when you start reading these scriptures. So, but it goes on to say, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, because the house of Israel is that congregation of the Lord. Now, when we go to that word congregation in the Hebrew, all right, let's go to that. Let's go to the book of Nehemiah 8 and 2. Right? And Ezra the priest brought the law before the congregation. We go to the word congregation. The word for congregation is quahal. Quahal. Assemblage, usually concretely, assembly, company, congregation, multitude. Congregation, assembly, which all of these, tie into the same word. Then you have another word here used, company. Company is also a compound word. Com is with, pani or pan is bread. All right, with bread or breaking of bread. To share bread. Company. That's what it means. Panem in the Latin, panem nostro. Our bread. Like when the scriptures in the Father's prayer say, give us this day our daily bread, panem nostrum quotidianum das nobis hodie. In other words, give us this day our daily bread. All right, so that's what the word company means, with bread. Those that are partakers of you with this bread. Now, who is that bread? That bread is Yahushua. Let's go to Matthew, same book of Matthew. Matthew is a bad book, man. Bad meaning bad, not bad. Bad meaning good, not, you know what I mean. All right, so Matthew chapter 26 and verse 26. And as they were eating, this is when Yahushua and the disciples kept the Passover. All right. It says, and as they were eating, Yahushua took bread and blessed it and brake it and gave it to the disciples and said, "Take, eat this. This is my body." So the company or the Israelites are those that are breaking bread, which is Yahushua, sharing the message that Yahushua gave to the nation of Israel to share amongst themselves. But the only difference is in this time, only the elect are going to get it and not the rest. But overall, in the kingdom of heaven, the ones that don't make it on this side will be there. Because remember, the promise is to be made sure to all of the seed. Because the Lord promised Abraham that his seed would inherit that land and get these promises. And the Most High is not a man that he should lie. So he says, and he took the cup and gave thanks and gave it to them, saying, "Drink ye all of it, for this is my blood of the New Testament, which is shed for many of Israel for the remission of sins." All right? So what are the remissions? Meaning for the forgiveness of sins. Let's look up that word remission. Let's see what that says in the book of Matthew 26 and 20. What was that? 26 and 28. The word there is aphesis, freedom, pardon, deliverance, forgiveness, liberty, remission. So how can you receive forgiveness for something that you were never given? There's plenty of scriptures that show us that the Lord never gave these laws, statutes, and commandments to the other nations. But let's just get one. Let's go to the book of Psalms, the 147th chapter, which Christians hate because it destroys their whole argument of the so-called believers and any nation can accept it. No, this is only given to the nation of Israel. Psalms 147 and 19. He showeth his word unto Jacob. What is his word? These scriptures. Who is Jacob? Jacob is the father of the 12 tribes of Israel. Sometimes the scriptures identify, the Israelites as Jacob. Sometimes it identifies them as Israel. Sometimes it identifies them as the saints. Sometimes it identifies them as Judah. Sometimes it identifies them as Ephraim. But it's all going back to the same thing, the nation of Israel. So he showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. And that's plain. Right? It says, he, meaning the Most High Yahweh, Bashem Yahushai, hath not dealt so with any nation. In what fashion? In the same fashion. Giving them the law, statutes, and commandments. So how can they receive? Because what is sin? Sin is the breaking of the law. You can go to 1 John 3 and 4, where it tells you that sin is the breaking of the law. So if sin is the breaking of the law, and the nations outside of the nation of Israel were never given the laws, how can they receive remission or forgiveness for sins when they were never given the laws to begin with? So it says, he hath not dealt so with any nation, and as for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, because they never received this message. Now, when the kingdom of heaven is established, they will come to learn it, because the whole world is going to be under the vibration of the law, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. So that's going to be a different story. But they're not going to get the same benefits that the nation of Israel will get. Okay? Bottom line, they're not going to get spiritual power. They're not going to get any of the land of Israel that the Lord promised from the Nile River and the river in Egypt all the way up to the Euphrates, all of that land in between there. They're not going to get any of that because that wasn't given to them. It was only given to the nation of Israel. What the scholars call the Fertile Crescent. And if you don't know what the Fertile Crescent is, type it in, look it up, do some research. Look at the maps, and it'll show you. The word crescent means to grow. It's like a crescent moon. All right, it looks like a croissant, and that body of land from the Euphrates River coming all the way down to the river in Egypt, which is the Nile River there. All of that land belongs to our people, the nation of Israel. You can look it up. That way you can be familiar you know, with when you hear the term fertile crescent. The word fertile means it's fertile. You know, there's a lot of vegetation, a lot of good ground. You know, it's well watered. The another term for it is a land of milk and honey. All right, because there's plenty of, you know, cows and, you know, things of that nature, and also there's plenty of vegetation and greenery for the bees to pollinate. So all of that means that the Lord gave us a land that was very fertile and that had many different benefits to it. Okay, now let's go back to the book of Nehemiah. Book of Nehemiah, chapter 8, to give you some more spaghetti for your plate. All right, so going back to Nehemiah 8 and 2. And Ezra the priest brought the law before the congregation of both of men and women. So the word congregation means with the flock. Who is the flock? The nation of Israel. And all that could hear with understanding upon the first day of the 7th month. And that's the key. Now you notice every time Yahweh Shai spoke, what did he say? He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. Because not every Israelite out there is able to hear this message. Remember, there's an angel out there that's blocking the mind and the understanding of certain Israelites out there so that they can't get this message. Because this is a message of salvation. Remember what the Apostle James said, you know, receive this word, the engrafted word with meekness, which is able to save your souls. So this word has, you know, has saving properties to it, but the key is it has to be mixed with faith, and you have to be a part of the elect in order to receive it, accept it, and the men of the nation of Israel will go out there and teach the word. All right? So it goes on to say, and he read therein before the street, that was before the water gate, from morning until midday. So they were in the street. All right? So what is a church? What is a congregation? The assembly, so on and so forth. That is the church. That is going out there on the streets. The word church, once again, ecclesia, ek is out, and ecclesia or kalein is where you get the word calling. Calling out. Why? Because when you're on the streets, this is where everything was really assembled, was out on the streets. All right. Let me go from there to the book of, I got a couple of precepts. Let's go first to the book of Exodus. Exodus chapter 12 and verse 6. Check this out. Exodus 12 and 6. And you shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month. That, you know, you would separate you could read the whole chapter. This is going into the Passover and the ordinance of the Passover. So you would get the lamb, 1 year old, no blemishes, and you would set it apart on the 10th day. All right. So it says, and you shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. So now we go to the word assembly, because we dealt with the word congregation, which means with the flock. When you go to the word assembly, right, in Exodus 12 and 6, let's pull out that word assembly. The whole assembly. The word there is kohal. Assemblage, usually concretely assembly, company, congregation, multitude, congregation, assembly, company, multitude. So that's the nation of Israel. All right, the congregation, the lost sheep of the house of Israel, which were brought back by the sacrifice of Yahweh Shai. Now, when you go into the blue letter, it goes into a little more detail. Like I said, I'm offline, so I'm not able to go there. So when you get a chance, you can look it up for yourself. And you could see, you know, the even more, you know, even more so, more of the definition of the word. So when we go back, it says, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. Now let's go from there to the book of Psalms, the 89th chapter. right? And the 7th verse, thinking about the scoffers, mad as hell. Man, why they ain't talking about this guy and that guy, man? That's the lessons I like, or that's the stuff I like. We're not here for your entertainment, okay? Psalms 89:7. The Most High is greatly to be feared in the assembly of the saints. Who are the saints? Let's go to that real quick and then we'll come back to Psalms 89. Psalms 148 and straight to the point, verse 14. Psalms 148 and 14. He also exalted the horn of his people, because the nation of Israel is the Most High's people, nobody else. The praise of all his saints. What does the word saints mean? It's a plural way of saying holy. The holies goes back to the Hebrew word kodash. Matter of fact, let me see if that is so on this one. Yep. Oh no, this one is chasayad, which is also the word for saints, pious ones, godly. But the other word for holy is kodash. All right. The praise of all his saints, even of the children of Israel, of people near unto him, praise ye the Lord. So the saints are who? The Israelites. Let's go from there. And really the saints, when it says children, it really means sons. Ban or banyam. Ban is son, banyam is sons. The yam makes it plural. So the sons of Israel are the saints of the Most High. Now let's go from there. Same book of Psalms, chapter 50 and verse 5. This is what the Lord said. Gather my saints together unto me, those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. Who made a covenant with the Lord by sacrifice? The Israelites. So who are the saints? The Israelites. The other nations are not the saints of the Most High. The other nations are actually heathens. Now, Israel came into a heathenistic mindset. This is why the New Testament speaks about salvation to the Gentiles, which are Israelite foreigners. See, and that's a whole mystery within itself, the mystery of the Gentiles. Let me see. Gather my saints together unto me, those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. There was a word that I was looking at. Okay, right. And that goes into another one, but let's get one, let's go back to Psalms 89 and 7. I got one more precept after that, then we can hit another point. Psalms 89 7 once again says, the Most High is greatly to be feared in the assembly of the saints, and to be had in reverence of all them that are about him, which are Israelites. So assembly, congregation, all the church is all a part of the same idea or thought. Same different words, but same definition, same idea. So now let's go to the one in the New Testament in the book of Hebrews. Speaking of Hebrews, Hebrews 12 and 23. To the general assembly and church of the firstborn, which are written in heaven, which goes into the elect, and to the Most High, the judge of all, and to the spirits of just men made perfect, because the flock of the Most High's pasture are men. The Lord is dealing with the men of Israel. The women were just created for us, for the men, but the Lord is dealing directly with the men. He's dealing with the sisters also, but he's more so dealing with the men who are the ones that teach his message. All right, so let's go to the word assembly. The word for assembly, check it out, is panegudis. Panegudis, which is a compound word. Pan is where you get the word bread. It says a mass meeting, that is figuratively universal companionship, general assembly. Why did it say universal? The word universal is uni is one, versal is to turn into one, universal. Because the nation of Israel is scattered throughout the 4 corners of the earth. That's why this message or this gospel Good news has to be taught to the four corners of the earth because the Lord is using his word to sift out the Israelites from among the other nations. Because if all nations were to be saved, why does the Lord have to sift his saints from among them? Because all nations did not receive salvation. They're not going to get salvation. They're going to get, in the kingdom of heaven, they're going to get their land back eventually, but they're going to be servants. They're going to always be tributary. But they're going to learn the law, statutes, and commandments. Our law, statutes, and commandments that we have, they're going to have to learn it because we're going to be perfect. We're going to be changed. Laws are going to be inserted into our inward parts according to the second covenant. So if we're not going to teach each other anymore, our children are going to be born already with that perfect spirit in them. So if we're not going to teach each other, who are we going to teach it? We're going to teach the other nations how to keep this, how to keep this law, how to keep that law. Teach them the laws. Teach them, how to keep these high holy days in the kingdom of heaven. But now they're not getting this because message is only for the nation of Israel. So Panagudis, it doesn't really go into from G3956, derivative G58. This one doesn't go into, like I said, this resource I have is very limited, and I'm not plugged into the internet, so I can't, I don't have the to get it, the access right now. But you brothers can look it up when you get a chance. All right, now let's go from there. Where were we gonna go? Dealt with the word assembly. Let's see. Let's hit some of these scriptures on the church. Ecclesia, which means to call out. Matter of fact, let me pull this up. Let's go to the book of Acts 7:38, which Elder Pastor goes into this from time to time. Acts 7:38. It says, this is he, matter of fact, I started at 37. This is that Moses which said unto the children of Israel, not the whole world, not all nations, the children of Israel. Yes, I hate to disappoint you gods, bro. This is that Moses which said unto the children of Israel, a prophet shall the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, your power, raise up unto you of your brethren, like unto me. Him shall you hear. This is dealing with Yahushai. All right. When you go back into Deuteronomy 18 and 15, I believe it is. This is he that was in the church in the wilderness with the angel which spake to him in the Mount Sinai. So this same angel was back then. This is Yahushai that was in the wilderness, that was with the church, that was guiding the church. All right? The children of Israel. Stephen just mentioned that. He didn't say, and the mixed multitude. No, he was talking about the children of Israel back then. This is he that was in the church in the wilderness with the angel which spake to him in the Mount Sinai. So who was the church? The Israelites. What does the church mean? To call out. Where is the message supposed to be broadcasted? Out on the streets. It says, and with our fathers who received the lively oracles to give unto us. Let's see. We already dealt with the word church, ecclesia. So let's go from there to Acts 2 and 47. 2 and 47. Praising the Most High and having favor with all the people, and the Lord added to the church daily such as should be saved. Right. Meaning what? He added to that congregation more of the elect. And how were they being called? They were being called by the ministry that was going on outside and the words that were being used, which is from the Bible, to gather those that believed. Because the majority of them didn't believe, but you did have some that did believe. All right, let's go from there to Acts 11 and 26. There's a lot of great nuggets in Acts. Acts 11 and 26. And when he had found him, he brought him unto Antioch. And it came to pass that the whole year they assembled, once again the word assembled, themselves with the church, because they called out and the people came, and taught much people. And the disciples were called Christians first in Antioch. All right. And that was through the calling or the gathering of the saints of the Most High by the message, the good news of this gospel. Now, before I read any more, matter of fact, let me see what this is. Let me go to this one. 1 Timothy, right? 3 and 5. Nope, that's not it. Verse 15. 1 Timothy 3 and 15. But if I tarry long, that thou mayest know, this is a message of the Apostle Paul to Timothy. But if I tarry long, that thou mayest know how thou oughtest to behave thyself in the house of the Most High, which is the church, which is the church of the living power, the pillar and ground of the truth. You see? So the church is to be, taught and guided a certain particular way by the truth of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. And that's how it's guided. Let's see what else we got. Before we read on there, let's go real quick to let's go to Leviticus real quick. I want to show you something. There's another word that's used for assembly, church, congregation, and that's this. It appears in many different places, but we're going to go to Leviticus 23 and 23, which Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, goes into the high holy days, the majority of the high holy days of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. You can read that on your own, which includes the Passover, the Day of Atonement, the Feast of Memorial of Blowing of the Trumpets, the Feast of Tabernacles, So Leviticus 23, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel. When you go to the word children, once again, it's the sons of Israel, saying, in the 7th month, in the 1st day of the month, shall you have a Sabbath. Why? Because this is the highest Sabbath of the year, which is the 7th month. And because there's 3 separate high holy days that are very dear to the Most High, and this is why he commanded that all of the men of the congregation of Israel would go to Jerusalem once a year for these 3 feasts, because they all happen in the same month. All right. Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, in the 7th month, in the 1st day of the month, shall you have a Sabbath, a memorial of blowing of trumpets, and holy convocation. Now, what does the word convocation mean? Once again, it's a compound word. Con is with, vocation, or is where you get the word voice, with voice, or with calling. Same thing is synonymous with the word church, with calling. And what was done when you called out? When you blew the trumpet, the Israelites would gather themselves together for this message. And there were certain different, when you blew the trumpet, there were certain different ways you would blow the trumpet, depending on what it was that you were trying to get across. So when we go to this word convocation, let's see what it says in the Hebrew. The word convocation is ma-quara'ah, which is a compound word. Ma is of or from, and then quara'ah means to call. All right, and that's what the Lord used the trumpet for. Now he's using the mouth of the prophets as that trumpet. So ma-quara'ah, something called out. See, that's where you get the word church, ecclesia. That is a public meeting. The act, the persons, or the place, they spelled that wrong. Also a rehearsal, assembly, calling, convocation, reading. All right? Because when you called out the congregation would come in to receive the message. All right, and there was different ways that it was done. Let's go from there to the book of Acts real quick, and then we're gonna hit this other precept. Let's go to the book of Acts, the 17th chapter and the 17th verse. It says, therefore disputed he, meaning the Apostle Paul, in the synagogue with the Jews and with the devout persons, and in the market daily with them that met with him. Now, when you go to this word market, the word market goes into the word agora. Agora is the marketplace. It's a place where you will go to. It was like the ancient malls, but most of the ancient malls were outside. Now, during the time of Hadrian, he did have a series. He had buildings that were created that had looked like department stores in a mall. You know, they would hollow out, you know, the cave, and then you would have people that would be in there selling merchandise. I believe one of them had like 2 tiers. You know, you would go in there, and you know, the people would be set up. They would have their, you know, lights or whatever in there, and they would have their merchandise. Those are the ancient malls. But for the most part, the malls were outside in the public. People would have stands. They would sell, you know, drinks. They would sell food, right? That was also a place where, you know, when you were trying to, you know, run for a Senate or run for a president, you would go out there campaigning, as they do here in America. You would also have open disputes, you know, about the law. Criminal trials would be held there. This is why today, when you have any criminal trial, you can go publicly and be in those trials. This is also where different doctrines were disputed. You know, the Greeks and the, you know, which are Israelites, they had, you know, public debates on certain, you know, doctrines that they had. Also, the church, you know, when you go out there, you know, and like the Apostle Paul defending the gospel, he would be out there disputing also on the streets. Okay, so it says from agero to gather. See, that's also an assembly, a congregation, the church. Probably akin to 1453, properly the town square. So the debates took place outside, not in no building, not on the internet, being out on the streets. That's where the public debates will take place. It says, as a place of public resort, by implication, a market or thoroughfare. Market, place, street. All right, that's what the agora was. So now, when you go back into the law, to Numbers, the 10th chapter, this was the ancient way of calling Israel in. And you had different sounds in the trumpet blowing to give the distinction of what the message was. Whether they needed to be on high alert, or whether they needed to, you know, be told that the new moon was coming in, or that a high holy day was coming in, so on and so forth. If there was impending danger, or if they had to prepare for war. This is why the Apostle Paul used that same scenario in 1 Corinthians 14 and 8, where it says, for if the trumpet given, matter of fact, I'll start at 7. And even things without life given sound, whether pipe or harp, right? Meaning, you know, different musical instruments, except they give a distinction in the sounds, how shall it be known what is piped or harped? Right, because if you could pick up a trumpet, you can pick up a saxophone, and you could blow it, and it sounds like hell. It's just noise. But then you could have somebody that's skilled in playing those instruments and play it, and beautiful music will come out. You know, and depending on how you would blow the trumpet, it gave either a festive mood or an alert mood. That's why in Amos 3 it says, shall a trumpet be blown in the city, and the people not be afraid. Right? So when we go to Numbers, the 10th chapter in the first verse, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Make thee 2 trumpets of silver of a whole piece. Shalt thou make them, that thou mayest use them for the calling of the assembly and for the journeying of the camps. All right, let's see. You look up the word calling, makwara'a, of calling, which is where you get the word convocation also from, which is with calling, con with vocation or voice, with the voice, calling. All right, for the gathering of the assembly. Now we have the word assembly here, which goes back to the word aidah. In the original sense of fixture, a stated assemblage, specifically a concourse, or generally a family or crowd, assembly, company, congregation. So you get the idea. All right, it says, and when they shall blow with them, all the assembly shall assemble themselves to thee at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. So there was a certain way that you would blow the trumpet, and the whole congregation of Israel will come gather, because the message was for all of Israel. Right? It says, and if they blow but with 1 trumpet, then the princes which are heads of the thousands of Israel shall gather themselves unto thee. Right. So if you blew both trumpets, all the congregation of Israel will come in. If you blew 1 trumpet, just the leaders of Israel will come in, because the message was for them to pass on to the rest of the congregation. When you blow an alarm, so when you blow the trumpet, but an alarm comes along with it, then the camps that lie on the east parts shall go forward, meaning this is preparation for war. It says, when you blow an alarm the second time, then the camps that lie on the south side shall take their journey. They shall blow an alarm for their journeys. But when the congregation is to be gathered together, you shall blow, but you shall not sound an alarm. And pretty much this is what's happening right now. The trumpets are being blown, the alarms are being sounded, but Jake is not taking heed to what's going on around him. Only the elect are getting it. Let's go real quick to Joel. Let's go to Joel, the 2nd chapter. Just bear with me 1 second. Joel 2:1. Blow ye the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of Yahweh cometh, for it is nigh at hand. And that's what you're supposed to be preparing for. Now there is another one. I believe that's in the book of Jeremiah. Let's see if I can find this one. Okay, that's not it. Let me try. Yeah, Barakdale Bashanel Shai. Jeremiah 4:19. My bowels, I am pained at my very heart. My heart maketh a noise in me. I cannot hold my peace. Because thou hast heard, O my soul, the sound of the trumpet, the alarm of war. Because war is coming. The time of Jacob's trouble is right there on Jake's heels. And they're not paying attention to what's going on. All right, and that's what this word is for. It's meant to call out to Israel. Now, let's go from there. I'm gonna get a couple of these here. Let's go to Acts. Back to the book of Acts, chapter 20. Because this is the job of the prophets, the teachers, the men of the Lord, is to warn, to teach the congregation, warn the congregation, edify the congregation, and to watch out for these wolves. Acts 20 and 20, and there's a lot of wolves out there, a lot of them. Some of them think that they're righteous men. They're nothing but wicked. Acts 20 and 28, take heed therefore unto yourselves and to all the flock over the which the Holy Spirit hath made you overseers, to feed the church of the Most High, which he hath purchased with his own blood. See, because the church is to be fed. This is why Yahweh asked Peter, do you love me, Peter? He said, yeah, Lord, you know I love you. He said, feed my sheep and feed my lambs. That's how you keep the congregation fed. When you start teaching these wayward doctrines, guess what? You're not feeding the flock. You're giving them GMOs. What happens to the body when you eat a lot of GMOs? The body starts to break down. And that's what's happening right now. That's why you see a lot of these different groups bugging out, tripping out, thinking that they're on point, thinking that their shit is all together, but their shit is falling apart. They're waxing worse and worse and they can't even see that they're destroying the very fundamental teachings that they received at one time. So the Apostle Paul said to beware of that. For I know this, that after my departing shall grievous wolves enter in among you, not sparing the flock. Right, because they're going to be teaching all kind of madness. Also of your own selves. And we've seen that happen time and time again. Individuals that were part of this fall out and they start teaching all kind of bugged out shit. Also of your own self shall men arise, speaking perverse things to draw away disciples after them. Okay? Let's go from there to 1 Corinthians 1 and 2. And I think I have one more precept after that, and then we can close it out. 1 Corinthians 1 and 2, which says, unto the church of the Most High, which is at Corinth, to them that are sanctified in Yahushua HaMashiach, called to be saints, because the only saints are Israelites, with all that in every place call upon the name of Yahushua HaMashiach our Lord, both theirs and ours. Let's jump to the 10th chapter of 1 Corinthians, and I think we're going to close it out there. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, because I found another, I'm going to read it and I explain it. I found another example of a particular word that we use. Matter of fact, let me see if I can pull that word up real quick. Let me see if I spell it right. Oh, I guess I'm not spelling it right. Nah. Well, when I get to it, if you brothers can post it up on the comment board. Let's see if I can read it off the comment board. The word hendiatrix. If you could post that up, Babakusha, if brothers don't mind. 1 Corinthians 10:32. Give none offense, neither to the Jews, which knew the ones that knew that they were Israelites, nor to the Gentiles, the Israelites that didn't know that they were Israelites, nor to the church of the Most High. This is another form of hendiatrix. Speaking, it's 3 in 1. It's speaking to the same people, but just in different fashions. Like Acts 9 and 15, where it speaks about Israel and the kings and the Gentiles, something like that. That's hendiatrix, 3 in 1. It's speaking to the same people, but in 3 different forms or 3 different fashions. So this is like another example of hendiatrix. Give none offense, whether to the Jews, which knew that they were Israelites, nor to the Gentiles, which didn't know that they were Israelites, nor to the church of the Most High, which are Israelites. All right, that's another form of hendiatrix. And I think pretty much we kind of covered that. But while brothers are putting that up, if you could find that. If not, then you can look it up yourself. Let me get this other precept. This is Psalms 22 and 2. It says, O my power, I cry in the daytime, but thou hearest not, and in the night season, and am not silent. Must have put down the wrong precept on that one. So let me jump down to the 25th verse. My praise shall be of thee in the great congregation. I will pay my vows before them that fear him, which is talking about the Israelites. Let me see something. Verse 22, that's where I messed up at. I will declare thy name unto my brethren in the midst of the congregation will I praise thee. And then we get this one real quick in the same book of Psalm 74. And I'll see if brothers put that on the comment board. 74 and 2. It says, remember thy congregation which thou hast purchased of old, the rod of thine inheritance which thou hast redeemed, this Mount Zion wherein thou hast dwelt. So who is the congregation of the Lord? The Israelites. Now you do have, okay, nope, I wasn't spelling it right. It was close, but no, cigar. The brother Amma One Ibad. Hendiatrous is a figure of speech used for emphasis in which three words are used to express one idea. The phrases sun, sea, and sand, and wine, women, and song are examples. A tripartite model is the conventional English term for a motto, a slogan, or an advertising phrase in the form of a hendiatrous, right? So that was another form of it in 1 Corinthians 10 and 32, another form of hendiatrous. Let me see if I could look it up again. Hendiatrous. You know what? Now it won't come up even spelling it right. It won't come up. Okay, so this has been the true church. Now, when you go through the scriptures, you're gonna find the congregation of the wicked. You're gonna find other congregations. You're gonna find conspiracies that of the nations coming together to fight against Israel. We're dealing with the church, the true church of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, which Yahushai himself told Peter that he would establish his church upon. And Peter, who was the head back then over, which is still the head over the whole church underneath Yahushai, he also is King David. And the scriptures say in the Old Testament that the Lord will build again the tabernacles of David, which is fallen. All right. And that was the beginning of it back then. You know, but the only thing is back then the Edomites didn't go into captivity because it wasn't time for them to go into captivity. It was only time to gather the elect from among them. All right, at that time, they elected the nation of Israel. All right, so we're at the end now where all of the Israelites that are part of the elect are being gathered. And the message is that salvation is for you. And when the kingdom of heaven is established, these heathens, you know, beginning with Esau, are going to go into captivity. All right, so with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. Till the next time I say, Shalom.